Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about why expensive doesn't mean better in interior design. Listen, we do this all the time, don't we? I do this, you do this, where we think that we need a big budget and really expensive materials and expensive products in order to make for a beautiful home. And it's just not true. And I'm gonna outline in this video a few key reasons why expensive does not mean better in interior design. And it's not just because that rich people oftentimes have very questionable taste in decor, okay? So let's get to it. Okay, but before I get to why expensive does not mean luxury, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Narwal. Narwal has sponsored this channel before, and I'm really excited to work with them again because I really love their products. Narwal makes the Narwal Frio Z10 Ultra, which is what I've been using in my own home now for a while, and it is super easy to use. First of all, let's talk about how easy it is to set up. You basically just set this little robot vacuum in your corner in its cute little base station, and then it maps out your entire home, avoiding any obstacles that you have. It'll go and do all the vacuuming and the mopping, which is amazing, for you. When in use, of course, it will also avoid any obstacles, both dogs, cats, as well as any sort of belongings that you have sitting all over the place. I mean, I have filming equipment. You probably have like kids' toys and stuff, but I have filming equipment and dog hair. And the Narwal Frio Z10 Ultra is able to avoid it all. So the Narwal Frio Z10 Ultra has a hyper-precise avoidance and cleaning system, so it sees everything in the space and reacts super quickly. It also has its edge reach technology, which is able to make sure that it gets right to the edge when mopping, which is fantastic. It also has 18,000 PA of suction and a dual flow tangle-free system, which in my experience means it's able to avoid issues around, pet hair or whatever, because, that's gonna ruin your day. And of course, the Narwal also comes with its all-in-one quiet maintenance-free station. So go check out the Narwal Frio Z10 Ultra down in the description. I'm gonna link it down below. Thank you, Narwal, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. First on my list is gonna be material does not equal longevity. So there are materials that are used all the time in design that are gorgeous and beautiful and may have a place in a person's home, but they're very expensive. And those ones oftentimes don't have longevity. They're just not gonna stand the test of time. Either they're incredibly trendy and they're gonna go in and look really dated very quickly, or they are going to scratch, dent, maybe patina if you're lucky, but otherwise will just not look the same years down the road. I did a video recently called Expensive Finishes That Will Not Last, and some of the and those are some really good examples of materials that just will not last a long time. So a really good example would be something like marble countertops, or just marble in general, right? Marble has definitely been having a moment for several years, and I love it. I love it too. I think natural stone is gorgeous, but the amount of natural stone that is going into some of these spaces, not only does it make you look like a Russian oligarch, like it's a bit suspicious, like you've definitely got some drug money, but like you don't need a 6-figure marble budget for your little apartment. You just don't. I mean, if you do, fantastic, good for you. But like you don't need it in order to create a beautiful and effective design. And countertops are a really good example because most people, maybe not you, but most people do not have the discipline or honest to God just care enough in order to be able to put up with the maintenance of marble countertops. You're not gonna get them refinished, you're not gonna get them sealed regularly, you're not gonna do it. And you might be a little bit annoyed when they chip or when they stain. And marble specifically, especially a softer marble, there's different types of marbles, please check with your fabricator, but a softer marble will dent and will scratch and will chip and whatever more easily than some other materials. And that may bug most people, that probably will, and they're not gonna necessarily protect it or be as sort of careful and precious with it in order for it to basically stand up to the rigors of most people's kitchens. Staining, most people, they're cooking with their chili powder and their turmeric and they've got soy sauce flinging around their kitchen, or spaghetti sauce, blah, blah, blah. They got kids, they got life, they got parties, they got whatever, and they just do not have the discipline to be able to seal them or to be able to wipe it up immediately, because if you leave that in overnight, you're gonna wake up to a dark, shadowy stain on your marble and it's disastrous. So it's not necessarily going to work for most people. Take a material like quartz. Quartz is a man-made material, okay? So it is a mix of some natural stone that's crushed up with some resin to bind it together to put it into a slab, and then some sort of coloring agent or whatever to make it look like marble or granite or nothing at all, just looks like white, or it could look like any color you want it to, or concrete. Like you can make it look like whatever you want because it's a man-made stone, okay? So I know man-made stone is a bit of an oxymoron, but bear with me. So it's a slab of a man-made material, and it is stain resistant, much more stain resistant than a natural stone is going to be, with basically no maintenance. In fact, they recommend, most manufacturers, don't quote me on this, but most of them, to my knowledge, tell you not to seal them because they're actually designed to be sealed. So something like butcher block countertops, a quartz product that's it's going to be a little bit cheaper than something like natural stone. Laminate, these materials are going to last you a lot longer. Okay, so materials don't equal longevity, and some of the most expensive ones are more tied to trends, or they're more tied to rarity. Like, okay, it's really difficult to produce, or maybe it's just really difficult to find. Like, there's not that many slabs of Brazilian rare semi-precious stone, and so that's what's driving up the cost, not longevity. So be careful when you're thinking that expensive whatever is going to be longevity. It does not. Okay, next on my list is going to be brand does not equal quality. So this one, you know, we're going to call out, of course, some names here, but Hermes, Versace Home, Restoration Hardware. Okay, I need to stop. Those brands are, and others, are really good at marketing. And that's where they're putting their money. Their money is in the marketing. Their money is not really in the materials or necessarily in the construction or some of those other things. There's some very, you know, unassuming North Carolina furniture manufacturing products from 1970s and 80s that are just amazing and beautiful. Will stand up even now, if you buy them now, secondhand, a lot, or third hand or fourth hand, to be honest, a lot more than some brand new stuff from some of these big box retailers that are honestly just more interested in putting their money in marketing than they are actually in construction. And so that is going to be driving up the price. So be very careful when looking at an Hermes throw versus something from a more mainstream retailer, that a mid-price retailer that honestly is probably also going to be gorgeous materials, might even be materials that will stand up a lot better than some of the sort of, you know, a cashmere throw or something might not stand up necessarily as better, even though it's going to be much more expensive, right? So again, see point one, but a lot of these brands love to use their name in order to be able to charge massive premiums on the products when actually they're not necessarily tied to longevity or, to be quite honest with you, style. You know, please see Versace Home for more further information around that. Honestly, in the end, some of these brands are using the exact same factories. It's coming out of the same product. There's a couple of websites like dupe.com or spoken.io or whatever where you can find sort of very similar products from different retailers that are priced. It's the same product. It's basic. It is not even basically, it is the same product. It's coming off the exact same assembly line overseas, but it ends up in different websites that are going to price it differently depending on their brand equity, right? So be conscious of that before you sort of make a decision and actually make a purchase. And yes, that is true for some of the really big ones that you know. The mainstream retailers are sometimes using the exact same furniture manufacturers. You know, they're using the same four hands for furniture. I did one on white labeling a video ages ago that I really honestly love that video. It's one of my favorite ones I've ever done. I think it's a really great one, if I do say so myself. And not all my videos are winners. Let's be real. Not all of them are. But that one's a good one. You should check that one out. And I highlight some of the brands that are using the same factories as some of the cheaper ones, but they're charging very different prices. So yeah, it happens all the time in design. Instead, what I think you should do is focus on construction and focusing on the materials. Again, ideally, if you want longevity, go for those hard wearing ones, but looking into construction and understanding what makes a good product, right? So solid wood construction in your case goods, I think, is very important if you can afford it, if you can make it work. And again, sometimes we're not talking very expensive here. If you're going to be buying things like a sofa, look into things like a kiln dried solid wood frame as opposed to something like a plywood. Still, mainstream, wonderful, affordable retailers are using those types of frames. You don't have to necessarily pay a whole ton of money for a $20,000 sofa to get those types of things. Things like an 8-way springs, so look into the springs on the sofas, makes a huge difference. Things like performance fabrics, right, that are going to stand the test of time a little bit better than some of those other ones, velvets and bouclés and things, but are going to be much more affordable and are going to make a whole lot more sense. So do your homework, find out, you know, what makes for a quality rug, a quality sofa, a quality, you know, a media console, and then dive a little bit deeper into the construction, because that's really what you should be paying for rather than just brand alone. Okay, and then next up on my list is going to be trend does not equal timeless. This is another really important one. We're talking about expensive. So take something like the cloud sofa, which is something that I personally may have made fun of a couple of times on the channel. I may have spoken ill about the sofa a few times. It's a fine sofa. I don't really, if you own it, I'm not gonna go for it, but like, it's not for me. And I think the reason for that is because when you're dealing with like a feather down sofa like that, the upkeep on that is an absolute nightmare. And I think you would probably do a lot better with a much simpler sofa, with a much sort of a firmer, high density foam, you know, solid construction sofa that you can get for half the price of the cloud sofa from RH, and it's gonna last you a lot longer. So going with really trendy pieces like the cloud sofa, trendy pieces like whatever you see that's super hot on Instagram at the moment, but feels very of the moment, spending a premium on some of those expensive items, because they often are expensive because they're cashing in on a trend, right? So that's what they're doing. So, you know, you'll find pieces that normally are quite affordable, and then all of a sudden when they're super hot and trendy, of course, more people are gonna pile into that space to create off of those trends, to capitalize on them. And they're gonna be charging a premium for them because they know people like you are gonna be jumping in and excited about the new latest trend. And so when you're jumping in and you're buying those trends, they're oftentimes, you know, those flash in the pan moments, they're more likely to date in time. And even though I'm not anti-trend, because I just think in general, they're just ideas, you don't have to take them, you don't have to put them in your own home. But if you do decide to take advantage of them and they are incredibly trendy of the moment, you may find that it gets really, really expensive because everybody wants them and they're really hot. And then all of a sudden they're not so hot. You know what I mean? Like I would say, what is it? Like 10 years ago, you couldn't find a sofa made out of a piece of fruit. You know what I mean? Like a banana sofa or a side table made of a strawberry. You know, you couldn't find that stuff. And then now in the last couple of years, it's become really, really popular. And so people are cashing in on this weird, funky, crazy, postmodern trend of all this very brightly colored, interestingly cool, but also kind of juvenile products, right? And so those products are really expensive right now, but you know, are they going to be awesome in 5-10 years? If they're just incredibly trendy and we're going to look back at this joy trend, this 2022 to 2020, still going, I guess, kind of trend, you know, we might look back at that and laugh at ourselves in a few years. And if you spent a premium on all that stuff when it was trendy, it's more likely to date. Going for something that's a little bit simpler, a little bit more timeless, something that always looks pretty good, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. And this is the thing. It might be better in the moment to feel like you're part of the trend, to feel like you've, you know, this snapshot in time, like you're really cool. But truthfully, in 5-10 years, you're going to look back on it and think you're incredibly stupid. In the same way that we look back at some of the clothing styles that we've had in years gone and thinking, what was I thinking? So be careful with trends. They can be fun, but they can also be a recipe for overpaying for expensive things that will not last. Okay, now my final point here, I want to just sort of sum up everything and just say that custom, quality, and personal is always going to be better than luxury, in my opinion, okay? So let's touch on custom. So custom is something that I would say is a better use of your funds than chasing brands, chasing trends, or chasing rare fabrics or materials that will not last. So what do I mean by that? It's like, you know, if you don't necessarily want to go out there and get all those, you know, marble slabs or all those, that onyx or all the whatever, but you want to look at doing a renovation for your home, going for something like a custom solution, if it's within your budget. If it's not, don't put any of this on your credit card, okay? It will, in my opinion, look better, even if you're choosing not the highest, you know, the trendiest fabrics or whatever. So something like a banquette, I think always looks amazing in a kitchen versus something like just a regular dining table that sort of fits into a kitchen, right? Something like in a closet system, you know, rather than going with a wire rack, if you choose to put in some custom millwork or something to be able to create a beautiful closet that is custom to that space, that is amazingly beautiful. So like built-in cabinetry, amazingly beautiful. Even some of the hacks, of course, if you want to use a Billy bookcase and you want to hack it into some custom cabinetry, that can be really amazing. Built-in fridge or built-in appliances, you know, custom sort of inset into your kitchen, right? So a paneled fridge, a paneled dishwasher, those things can be really beautiful. A built-in custom sort of sink that you put in, that, you know, you really want to put your budget into something like a sink that you want to have integrated into your island or into, you know, is just gorgeous. A custom headboard, I think, is really beautiful. In a master or a primary bedroom, that is a really wonderful way to sort of really set off your bedroom rather than just putting in a bed. There's nothing wrong with putting in the furniture pieces, but I will say that adding in some custom solutions is, I think, a much better place to put your budget than chasing brands or trends or anything like that. Quality. Well, I feel like I've talked about quality throughout this video. I don't, again, mean choosing expensive, fancy, rare materials, because pricing in materials is not always what you think it's going to. Something that is ivory is going to be really expensive, but would I advise that you put it in your home? No. Plus it's cruel, so don't do that. But investing in quality, whether that's going to be the craftsmanship, whether it's going to be the materials and the use case for those materials for whatever they're going to be used for, because some, you know, softwood as opposed to hardwood might make sense for some things, but it might not make sense for a couch frame because it might not last as long as something like a hardwood will, right? So making sure that you're using the right products in the right use for the furniture or for the home is going to make a much bigger difference than going with some crazy, super expensive stuff that might not make a whole ton of sense for that use case. But again, quality isn't tied to price necessarily, right? If you're thinking that you need to put all marble slabs in your shower niche or in your shower shower? No, you don't. If you're thinking you need marble on your flooring in your bathroom for your primary, no, you don't. Do you need a marble sink? No, you don't. You don't need those things. So tile is a quality product that you can use in your shower. You can use a tile on your flooring in your shower and it will last you for years and years and years. So you don't really need to chase expensive in order to get quality in your home. And finally, personal, right? So you've got custom, you've got quality, and you've got personal. I do believe, although I will admit I don't talk about it enough in my videos, that your home is to reflect you. And I do think that you need to start with the mood that you want to create in your home. How do you feel in your home? How do you want other people to feel? I do think your own home personal style versus your own clothing personal style is different because you're inviting people into your home, and I think that's a wonderful thing. You get to allow people to come and experience your home. I was recently in Bruges, which you should go if you haven't been. Bruges is super cute. It's in Belgium. And if you do go, I'm gonna link to this adorable little champagne bar where she basically did a cute little champagne flight of I did 6 different glasses of champagne. And she did the whole thing. It was really cute. She did this whole thing. And the point is that she was this eclectic fun woman. I was like, can I come back in another life and just come back as you and just sit in Bruges and pour champagne all day? And her style was really personally hers, I would say. And the bar itself was also really interesting and cool and definitely her. It just reflected her style. And she said at one point, she's like, oh, I designed it myself. And you could tell in the best way. Did she break every rule I've ever talked about on this channel? Absolutely. Did she do all the stuff that I personally would never put in? Of course, that's stuff I make fun of all the time on my channel, but it was her. It was personally her, and I loved it. It was like entering into her mind in a weird way. As we were sitting there, it was just such an eclectic mix of Art Deco meets sort of glam, but sort of what is this style being worked in here? It didn't make any sense in the best way possible, and I loved it. So she was so cute and so lovely, and it really just highlighted and reminded me how personal your home can be. It needs to reflect you. So whether that means photos of loved ones, which I don't have photos of loved ones, but maybe you do. Things that you've bought in your travels, this little guy here, how cute is this? This is from what is this from? This is from the early 1900s no, it's from 1950s, I think, from Utrecht here in the Netherlands. And this adorable little, it's cool. Now I will always remember going to this really cool little vintage store and finding this little antique store and finding this little pot here in the Netherlands. And you just always can remember that little guy there, this little tile, which is an old tile from the early 1700s from, I think it was a place in Haarlem, the guy said. I mean, just really cool. These little Dutch fishermen here, I'm gonna take this little tile with me for an ever and ever and ever. And these little Dutch fishermen from the 1700s will always make me smile. And I just think that, we don't talk about that enough on this channel. Maybe we don't talk, maybe that's obviously my fault. I was gonna say maybe it's our fault. No, you don't have anything to do with this. What goes on my channel is my problem. It's my business, but I have full control over it. So it's 100% my fault. People, we need to put more of our own personal stuff in our homes. Things that we've collected in our travels, things that people have given to us, things that we just love, things that might break all the rules, but that we just really appreciate and that we enjoy. And every time we look at them, we bring a smile to our face, because that's really what it's about. You loving it, you enjoying it. And if I make fun of it on this channel, well, that's just what I do. And that's just the kicks that I get. And that's up to me, but that's just how I get my fun. And and that's okay. We're allowed to make fun of things and people are allowed to have them and love them. And that's totally cool. Whatever it means to you, for you to find your own personal stuff that you really enjoy, bring it in your home and enjoy it, because that's what it's about. In the end, I just think that personal trumps luxury every single time. So make sure that your space reflects you, so that when you bring people into your home, it reflects you and your family. So you can be proud of the space that you live in and that you're happy to be there. No matter what's happening in the world, you can always retreat to your home and enjoy it, because that's what it's about. Okay, that's it for me today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to the video that I did ages ago on finding dupes of different sort of items, because you will find that white labeling is massive in the world of interior design, and people don't realize that you can get the same product, the exact same product from the same factory, from different prices depending on the retailer. So I'm gonna link to that video, check that out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Okay, thanks, bye.